Hi, welcome to Speciality Trees. We're doing a series of videos to talk a little bit about us, but a lot about trees.
Okay, so what processes are vital to growing a great tree? I think they're all vital, really. And while we put more emphasis perhaps on root pruning and formative pruning of the canopy, I think if we miss or do something incorrectly through any stage of the growing process, that can have a significant impact to how the tree is produced. So the timing of sourcing junior material for our production nursery here can be vitally important. I think one of the key things we need to remember here is that we need to give not only the propagator but also the tree the right amount of time in order to be produced. It's very hard to order things that are out of season, and often with trees you only get one time of the year when we can propagate. So ensuring you've got enough lead time is pretty essential to producing a great tree. Working with nurseries that are like-minded or quality driven like we are can also be an essential part of the supply chain, just to ensure that the quality that comes in is of a high standard, ensuring the quality that we produce is at the same level. So Australian Standard 2303 for trees came on a couple of years ago, and it's been a really good standard for everyone that's purchasing trees. But here in the nursery, it also made us kind of look at our internal systems and just check that we were doing the right things in order to meet the standard. Here at Speciality Trees, we were doing the lion's share of what was needed in the standard before the standard came on. But I think the standard really gave us something to measure to. It gave us something to achieve and make sure that we tick off, rather than just the internal things that we think were correct.
I want to talk about tree resilience and what that means to us and how we go about getting as much resilience into our trees as possible, and the processes that we go into do that. So there's lots of ways of managing that. So it's about the nutrition load, it's about microbiology, it's about pest and disease management, it's about weed management, all those sorts of things deliver into resilience. What we're trying to do is to get a tree to perform better in the landscape than it does in the nursery. So we're setting the tree up to perform in the landscape, not here in the nursery. So people walk around here and say, oh, you've got beautiful stock, but what's wrong with, what's going on with that tree? And it's been pruned in an odd way, or what they perceive as to be an odd way. And in fact, it's about getting that tree to be resilient in the landscape post-nursery. So it's about getting that tree to last for 50 years. So what's involved in that? So we've got a very elaborate irrigation programming that we use, and so we only put on as much water as that tree is going to need for that day. We don't. There's a little bit of carryover, but what we're trying to do is to not overwater that tree. So the tree has to do the work to be in that space. So it's actually training it to be resilient. So when it goes into the landscape, it can survive without having to be watered every day. That's what we're looking for. So it's about building up those reserves. We have our soils, growing mediums that we use, have got enough nutrition load in them, and it's long term. It's not short term. It's long term. So we have enough long term fertiliser in there to last for about 18 months. So in the nursery here, what we try and do is don't have a birthday in that container. So we've always got this extra load of fertiliser that's there for once the tree's been planted. That's to get it to allow it to establish. We're using a lot of organic fertilisers now that are feeding, and we're setting that up to actually feed the soil, not necessarily the tree. So we're actually feeding the microbes that are in the soil to actually encourage them to be in that space. We're inoculating now with those microbes to make sure that they're there. So because one of the big issues that we've got is that we're planting these trees into soils that have been disturbed, severely disturbed in some cases, and so they're almost sterile ground. So how do you make sure that the good bacterias and fungi and trichodermas and things that we want to be in that space are actually there? So we actually put those in the pot before it leaves the nursery. That's what it's about building that resilience. So we're actually building not only within the nursery space, but actually so that they take those that ecology with them. We use integrated pest and disease management within the nursery, so we very rarely do we actually spray for pest or disease. Why don't we do that? Make it a lot easier if we did spray for it. But what we want to do is to actually have that as so that when that tree is planted into the landscape, they actually bring the ecology with them. So if there's a tree that has a particular problem, we're actually happy for it to have that problem in the nursery because it solves that problem itself. The predatory insects will be there. So if you have a mite or an aphid, there's usually a solution to that problem on that tree, and that goes with it into that ecology. So you're actually creating environments, micro environments, and that tree brings that with it into that space. And we think that is going to help the tree perform in that space and actually survive and build its resilience in that environment and allow it to be there in that 50 to 100 year sort of time frame. That's what this is about. It's about growing trees for the future, growing great trees for generations to come. That's one of our taglines, and that's what we're trying to do. We're actually trying to walk that walk.